thank you for interviewing me and for giving me this opportunity to be able to talk about what this has meant for me. I was 21 years old in 1977 when my wings kind of expanded and I came this way. I was already at San Diego State. I was a student. I was a machista. I was involved in the community here. I'm originally from Oxnard, California. And so I had migrated over here to go to school. And I got completely involved in the Chicano movement. I met machistas. I got involved in the women's movement. I got involved in the farm worker movement. And eventually I needed to pick up some work because I was, collecting financial aid as a student. And in the 70s, even though people talk about how easy it was to get financial aid, you still had to work. And so I got an internship, paid internship, work study at Centro Cultural de la Raza, which is in Balboa Park. And it was there at Balboa, in Centro Cultural, where I met Yolanda Lopez, and I met David Avalos, Guillermo Aranda, Sal Barajas. I can go down the list. And it was there too where I met Chunky. And I met the people from Teatro Mestizo. And Enrique Ramirez with Los Alacranes. So I was in the thick of it, They were called Toltecas in Aslan. Became a Tolteca. And my first introduction into art came because as an intern, I needed to do some kind of job. And they said, well, Yolanda Lopez is going to be working with young women from San Diego High to develop a mural at Chicano Park. She needs an assistant. And I said, I can help her. And so I would go with Yolanda to San Diego High, and I would walk to the bus stop. Yolanda would drive her car here, and I would take the bus with the girls from the high school. And now they're here painting. They're renovating their piece, which is amazing. So when I talk about 1977, it's 47 years ago. And, I got connected here, and I would sketch, just like, look at what I'm doing this, and look what I'm doing here. And what happened is I was kind of hanging out at the Centro a lot with Yolanda and a lot of artists, and once in a while I would show them my drawings. And at that time, the Royal Chicano Air Force from Sacra, Jose Montoya and all them, had converged here. They were about to just do a bunch of murals here. And Yolanda and I had been talking, and she said, you should paint something. And I went, oh, no, I'm just some little youngster. And she goes, well, let's see. So what had happened, because I had been in a not very good situation with my mom and my dad, they were upset with me because they wanted me to come back to Oxnard. And I was like, I had found myself here. I found my voice. It's the first time I was calling myself a Chicana. I was totally integrated and ingrained in the movement, and I had known about things that were going on, racism, police brutality. My primos were brown berets in Oxnard, but we weren't able to hang out with them because, we were like, don't get involved in that stuff. But it was here that I completely became immersed into it. And it became part of what I later called the 4 C's: Corazón, Cultura, Comunidad, and Conciencia. And I kept those 4 C's with me as part of my desarrollo that eventually lands me out in San Francisco, 50-something years later, where I become a principal of a high school. And I run this alternative high school. And I brought everything that I learned over the years there. So I present this piece because I had been having this nightmare about a bear chasing me. And one of my friends from Teatro Mestizo, Carolina Flores, said, I think you need to have a limpia. So I went to go get a limpia here in Logan Heights. And it was this señora, Sarita, who said that the bear reflected a lot of my own fears and what was going on with my relationship with my mother. And, being Chicana, being a woman, and having this challenging relationship with my mom. I was battling against traditions, battling against my father's patriarchy. My father was real strict. He was a Korean War vet. So, he expected you to be like, march to his orders. And with all due respect to my parents, I mean, I understand now, as a 68-year-old woman, what that was like, having to raise 12 children. I'm the oldest of 12. Part of the dedication down there says Los Doce, which are my 12 brothers and sisters. And so I grew up quick. And so I'm having this nightmare, and the señora after the limpia says, you're going to be fine now. Ya vas a dormir. Vas a estar bien. And that week, I started to have this dream. And as a youngster, I used to hang out at the beach in Oxnard with all my friends. Very few of us Chicanos know how to surf or go to the beach. And I used to hang out there. And as I was, surfing one night in my dream, I found myself on top of these clouds. And I was like, oh, what am I doing? Like, this is crazy. And at one point in one of my dreams, the clouds open, and I'm on top of what I envisioned to be this serpent. And it wasn't your typical looking Quetzalcoatl. It wasn't like, this plume serpent. It was what I envisioned as this serpent that I eventually fly through the world through it. And eventually I began to think and acknowledge that it was what sort of carried me in the trajectory of my career, my life. It has been with me as part of the movement, as part of a movement within myself. And it led me through many experiences. So after the dream, I come back and I tell Yolanda, hey, this is what happened. And she goes, draw it. So I put it on paper, and then we put it up here. And I was telling Hector earlier today, and also Jesse, about, this is like a red carpet treatment we're getting here, right? Like with these awesome scaffolds. Yeah, they move, but they don't move like what we were up there. 1977, I was telling Jesse, because I was up here earlier and I was thinking that we were just kind of reflecting. And I was thinking, man, this isn't really that high. But when we were painting in 77, it felt like we were really high up here. And, people were experimenting with, psychedelics and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And, we weren't thinking about health or risking. We were just thinking about we need to get the stuff up, put the colors on the wall, get the word out there. And so that way people could see this land, this park, because I came in after they took over the park. And this was about, let's just get the stuff up here and let's claim this property, this land that belongs to us, to this community. And I always feel I've gone to different communities, only two, San Diego and San Francisco. And San Pancho, the Mission, I became integrated into that community too. So I painted, and as we were putting it up, and we would have this scaffold made out of this, but they were wood planks. And so we built it from the bottom up, put the planks, and then as we moved down, move the planks down, pull the paint up with the bucket, and go up a ladder on the side to get up here. Not this nice, safe ladder that's signed by OSHA, that this is a safe scaffold. It was kind of like we didn't think of that. We just said we need to do it. And I think that was the call. The call to action then was, we just need to get it done. And, by quoting, by any means necessary, right? We just did it. And so, during this experience, what it has done over the last, 25 days that I've been here, because I was a bit ambitious to think we were going to get done in 2 weeks. And, and once I saw it, and it had been so faded, because it was completely faded and full of soot from the cars, I got up here and I said, oh my God, this is going to be a lot of work. So we had to put several layers, recreate the color, try to get it to the point where it was before. Obviously, we had the help of the Chicano Restoration Committee to kind of guide us through the color guide, through the Nova colors. But we recreated this scale color, recreated the teal. You know, we added these enhancements of these pearl essence, the back of the metallic essence. You know, these are the two feathers that are new to the mural, but I kept the old one as part of retaining some of the past with the present. You know, and we enhanced the teeth of the dragon of the Quetzal by giving him some gold teeth for the royalty and the elegance that he represents. And you know, and just started to just do some enhancements to this experience because someone told me the faded piece is the 1977 piece. The enhancements is the 2023. You're bringing it to, you know, to the present tense. And so I think differently. Obviously, I'm in a different place in my life. You know, it's interesting because I'm 20 years sober, 20 years clean, and 20 years cancer free. So when I decided to get clean, because I got diagnosed with cancer, when I think of the Sueno Serpentino, I think it's part of that all that journey. Because when I was in the hospital, and I was like, oh my God, I have cancer. Oh my God, I'm going to do radiation. Oh my God, what if I die? And then it was like the doors on that part of my life sort of closed, and this new portal opened to being sober, to not working and walking in contradiction, because that's what I was doing. You know, it was kind of like not following what I had said I was going to set out to do. And so I wanted to be a truth speaker. And when Hector tracked me down to do this, I was kind of avoiding it a little bit because I didn't know how it was going to feel. Because at 68 years old, to experience a full circle moment, to be 68 when I was 21, 47 years ago, to be back up here, it's an incredible feeling. Not only is it incredible, but humbling feeling to realize that I had become part of this iconic, this movimiento, that I am just a tadpole in the pond of all these muralistas that have done this work. And when I think about, you know, just the journey that it's taken to return, it's an incredible feeling, Cesar. It's like this feeling of humility, this feeling of like, you know, kind of trying to find my self-worth again. Because obviously, as you get older, and, you know, now I'm in the elder, you know, position, you know, a lot of times you walk around this earth just doing the work. And that's the kind of person I've been. Just doing the grind, doing the work, working with the youngsters in the hood. And that's all it was about. Never forgetting where I got my raíces from. If I had not come to San Diego, my eyes would have never been open to Chicanismo, to being Chicana, to having these sueños, these serpentinos, these serpents, these you know, these all of these motifs and things that our people desarrollaron. All these symbols of hope, symbols of movement, symbols of representing our culture. And the fact that people are trying to wipe it away now is, to me, is an incredible effed up feeling to think that they're just going to wipe it away by whitewashing it. And I think when we're restoring, we're validating our work, our palabra, our skills, and we're saying, no, you're not going to whitewash it. We're going to make it even more beautiful. We're going to bring the color out so that it is in your face. It is here sending you a message. And I think that the feeling has been around, like I said, being humble, but recognizing that all along I had sort of smashed that Socorro from the 70s. I had kind of forgotten about who she was. And see, people have asked me, oh, I'd like to see some of your art now. And I humbly have to tell them, I only paint if I'm asked to do something. And I recently took out some of these canvases that I had done right after my brother died. Because what's happened to me is every time I'm going through a crisis of some sort or a challenge, I go to paint. So for me, For me, it is a healing process. This whole altar that we have built, because these are altares that everybody does. I've started every morning here with ceremonia, with the poposhkomi, with some pupalito, with some salvia. Every morning we start that way, and every day we close that way. Because that medicine was introduced to me, and I know this is part of the medicine. And so for me, it's important. These symbols are important. And again, like getting back to the full circle moment, it's been an incredible experience to receive the unconditional love, the support from, the Chicano Park Restoration Committee, from Lucas, Patricia, Hector, Joni, Nadia, and Rocky, and the people that have just stepped up, and then the women that came from Oxnard to help, the women that are local from San Diego, my friends that came from LA. I mean, just the excitement people feel, not just for me, but because this is bigger than just me. This mural isn't just about Socorro Gamboa, and the fact that I never signed it. I never signed it. And if you go into like Google or you type in Socorro Gamboa, all this stuff comes up, and it does say Sueno Serpentino in Chicano Park. Politically, I think when I walked away and I didn't sign it, there was some stuff, to be honest, happening at Chicano Park that I just didn't agree with anymore. And I turned my back on it. I just said, you know what? I don't want to be part of what was going on. It had nothing to do with the steering committee, nothing to do with the Centro, more to do that I think that sometimes this kind of work can become very egotistical. And you can think, well, look at me, I'm this badass artist, and I never, ever in my life have ever been that way. I think my parents raised me to be very humble, but sometimes that can be a negative thing, because then your self-esteem, you're always having to let me just, I'm in the background. What this did is it opened a portal for me, a door, to be able to just say, yeah, God damn it, this is who I am. This is what I did. And I want to share it with the world and tell people. And it's inspired me to start painting again and to start opening that up. And that's why for me, Cesar, it was really important that I only allow women to paint this. And it's only been women that have been up here, and women with their skills. And I'm a different type of creator and designer. If I talk with you, for example, the clouds had a lot of evolution because we have a woman working with us, Gloria Galindo, who's got a lot of skills. And I said to Gloria, take them on. I said to Suli from Oxnard, take on the Nahuiolin, the symbol. I had Nadia take on the mano, and I decided to create it more of like a Hamsa mana, mano, so that, and I said, put your flavor on it, put your energy into it, because to me, I see it more as a community gift, because that's why I'm here. I'm here to manage that, navigate that, and create these opportunities, not because I have a big ego, but I can unlock that gate and anybody can walk in, any woman can walk in and say, how do I get connected to this? And we've had a woman, who just recently was diagnosed with cancer. Berenice, I think is her name, how you pronounce it. And she had asked if she could paint it. So today she spent the morning redoing the clouds and adding this beautiful pearl essence to it. So when the sun hits it, and that just to her, that's this part of the shimmer of her energy that she is. So she put her hand on it. And as you go through the mural, there are many aspects of it. Obviously the reproductive system, and obviously it gives this representation of the maize being our the base of our meals, And so I thought it was really important that we put this symbolism in here. And it's sort of set like a clock, like a time, so that it's consistently moving and rotating and moving through life. So, unless you're inside an artist's mind and inside their heart, I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to talk about it. Because then I've met so many people as we've been restoring it that have said, you don't know how many times I've just sat there and wondered, what was the person thinking when they did this? And then I met a younger person that came up here to paint with us, and she started crying. And she said, when I was a little kid, my mom used to sit me at the bench that's down here, and I used to watch my mom paint here. And I used to tell my mother, what is this? She goes, oh, it's Quetzalcoatl. And she told her about the movement and all that. And so she got very, very connected to the plume serpent, to Quetzalcoatl, and she has a tattoo now. And she said, when she came up here to paint, she started crying. And she goes, it was always my dream to paint on this mural. And for me, that speaks volumes. Not because it's Socorro, but because the mural gives you that. And so, I'll tell you, I think the experience has been phenomenal. I mean, I don't have any complaints. I think that every little ounce of help or support has been tremendous. It's so beautiful to know that there is a generation of young people that are practicing what they call, this generational respect. And to see younger people like Lucas, whose, grandmother is Tommy Camarillo, to have Patricia here, and her energy with her children that are here working, Joni, and to see them as and Hector, that have this energy that reminds me of the core that we were when we were in the 70s, because they have that commitment, that conciencia, that cultura, and that sense of comunidad. And that I leave you with that thought, because I think if you can practice that and you carry it throughout your life, whatever it is you do, when you walk into a situation, when I landed out in San Francisco, and I did my work there for almost 20 years, never did I ever imagine that I would be, dealing with youngsters that were shooting and killing each other. But that's the work where it took me. And as I would tell stories, I ran an alternative high school. It was a small school. And I would talk about Chicano Park. I'd talk about my Machista days. And I would talk to them about that and try to make relevance to how they were eradicating themselves and, just killing each other. And as the work led more, I continued to develop more work in San Francisco. I became a consultant developing violence prevention intervention programs. I ran one of the biggest intervention programs called the Community Peace Initiative, and also the Community Response Network. But I never forgot about this experience, and I carried it with me. And so part of the dedication, I could have dedicated it to those 100 kids, but I chose one kid. And the reason I chose Fernando Villarreal was, his nickname was Miklo, because he was the only kid that would walk into the school every day. Because school started at 9, and he'd always walk in at 9:30. And I always feel like he was caught like in a time warp. Like he reminded me of a youngster that I was with the other youngsters that we were here in the 70s. He would walk in, his Ben Davis, his brown Converse, he used to wear like a beanie and a poncho. And it always had like the Aztec calendar, or it had something else in the back, or it had other things. And he would always be the one to say, "What's up, Socorro? Chicano power." And I'd be like, "Dude, you're like in the Bay Area. Like, where did you come from?" Like he was that reminder. And for many years I used to go, "Man, Fernando," and he go, "What, Socorro? I'm a Chicano," and it's that. And in the Bay at that time, people were like, hip hop, cross colors. Everybody was a brother to everybody. Nobody was using the word Chicano. And this is the 90s, the late 90s. And I'd be like, where did he come from? Unfortunately, Fernando is no longer with us. And he completed his time here. He was very sad as an individual, and he decided to transition without asking permission. He just took his journey. And I never forgot when I got there when he was lying there. And all those thoughts came to me. And I was thinking, oh my God, like Fernando, like I'm not, like what happened? And I knew what had happened. But he was the epitome, the example of these youngsters that had found their cultura, their conciencia, their comunidad, and they were just so proud of being who he was. So I decided to be honest with you, on the very first night I was up here, we were already finishing the first day. I was kind of cleaning up. It was the first time. It was August 6th, I think. And I turned, and I could have sworn I saw him up here on the scaffold, standing right there. What's up, Socorro? And I knew at that point that I needed to finish this mural. And so I dedicated it to him, I dedicated it to him because he was that reminder. He was that, like, you're Chicana, man. Like, this is your trajectory. This is where you came from. And so I decided to dedicate, amongst other people, other mentors that I've had. But I always believe people come into your life for a reason and a season. And if you don't learn from that and that experience, then it's your loss, right? I think, so I could tell you that I think, in all honesty, this has been very humbling. I feel I have lots of respect for the people that are here, and that I hope that the relationship continues with Chicano Park as I go on to my next elder years. Gracias.